Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journeys, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made under this new label or sub-label, which is called JANUS Contemporaries, which started earlier this year in 2023 and is continuing on with a number of releases before the end of this year. Among which is, for example, this release, which is for a film which is described as being from the year 2022. And the name of the filmmakers, or the names of the filmmakers, are Felix von Herling and Charlotte Vandermeersch. And the name of this work is, and please pardon me for my very poor pronunciation of the language, I hope you can forgive me, Le Otto Montagne, or as it's known in English, The Eight Mountains. Which is described as being from the year 2022 from the filmmakers Felix von Groeningen and Charlotte Vandermeersch. And this is starring, among others, Luca Marinelli and Alessandro Borghi and others. This is the work. And once again, please pardon me for my poor pronunciation of the language, Le Otto Montagne, or as it's known in English, The Eight Mountains. This is another film for which I am watching for the first time, thanks to this wonderful new lineup for this year 2023's JANUS Contemporaries. This is the single disc Blu-ray release of this work, The Eight Mountains from 2022. And watching this for the first time, I was very struck by a number of things, both insightful and inspirational and delightful and challenging and thought-provoking and very heartfelt, both with twinges of, say, sadness and longing, as well as insights that linger on into the arenas of hope and life and family relationships, and indeed the bonds of friendship that last for many years across distances and indeed traverse class bounds, structural bounds, geographical bounds, and enter into a realm of the truly spiritual and the truly uplifting and extremely inspirational and very human and humane. So if we are to try to describe the plot of this work, The Eight Mountains, I think we would focus on this very key relationship that we understand was forged. This friendship, this bond was forged early on in childhood, and that is the friendship between Pietro and Bruno, who meet under very interesting circumstances very early on in the film. And this has a lot to do with the family backgrounds, very specific and very detailed, or maybe I should take that back, very specific and very individualized backgrounds for each of these young children, respectively. Pietro on the one hand, and his family background, why he has come, why the family has come to this particular area, the countryside, this rural life on the one hand, which also makes a very interesting contrast, again, very early on with the city landscape, the urban life, which is also part of their lives, in particular the life of his father. And that also leads to yet another subset or another strand or an avenue of this work, namely the relationships between parents and children. For example, as exemplified by, for instance, the relationship to be had throughout the course of time and years in this film between Pietro and his father. And indeed, his parents together as well. But one example of that is the relationship between father and son here. That's one of the key characters, Pietro's side. And then we also encounter early on at a young age Bruno, and we see his specific background and the people who are part of his family or who aren't there, in a manner of speaking. And we have the relationship, the union between these two children being forged very early. The bond is very strong between them. there is a childhood connection that we understand will last for a number of years because the film traverses time and space and charts their paths as they grow into say they grow into adolescence and early adulthood and indeed become adults. And along the way, the film does chart their paths. Sometimes they are together and sometimes they are connected and spending time together and enjoying life as exemplified in the rural landscape, the countryside grana, and the beauty and the grace of the fields and the mountainside and the working the soil and the land and the earth, and also trekking and mountain climbing and the idea of taking these outdoor trips, which also itself becomes a key component, especially when trying to, say, find in a type of physical or material form or corporeal form the notion of a type of relationship forged between human beings, whether it be the treks that are had between and among the boys and the father, which also then in turn might exemplify the relationship between Pietro and his father, or perhaps even Bruno and the father, which we will understand later, has its own resonance and its own type of emotional echo that further helps to show the closeness in the sort of relationship of the humane between one character and the other, which stands apart from, say, distances that are developing between other characters. So this idea of the closeness of one relationship really serves to highlight the distance of other relationships. And I think that has a lot of parallel ringings in terms of these two boys that are growing up. And as I say, traversing not just the physical landscape, but also the landscape of adolescence and into adulthood. And their paths aren't always in parallel or aren't always together. They do drift in separate directions over the course of their lives, respectively. They are human beings, after all. They are depicted with the warmth and breadth and respect of human beings by the filmmakers Groeningen and Vandermeersch, respectively, in this wonderful, caring way, based upon the novel, I should say, by Paolo Cognetti from 2016. But Groeningen and Vandermeersch really showcase a depth of soul and humanity in each of these characters. Even when they are drifting apart, we understand that they are doing so because their lives or their own, say, trajectories or their own feelings about themselves are really showing where it is they're going. Now, when it comes to Pietro, on the one hand, we understand that a lot of it has to do, as I mentioned, with the relationship with his parents, specifically his father, who makes a very prominent appearance, both in the context of this film, but also in the context of Pietro's life, and indeed Bruno's life, as we will find out. And also, on the other hand, Bruno, he seems to be tied to or spiritually linked with the soil, the earth, the land, the forest, the mountains, this plot of land, this earth, this place that he spiritually and indeed physically and emotionally calls home, for reasons that perhaps become clear when we get to know him and indeed the community and the characters that inhabit this wonderful film, The Eight Mountains. So there might be drift and distance that emerge and occur even between our two main characters, but there's also an intertwining, there's also coming together. There's also, when people drift apart, it's not due to perhaps anything except that's the way life happens. And that's, I think, a great way of experiencing this film as a type of a feeling of life happening before one's very eyes, excuse me, as we watch this film, and the feeling of lives happening, because it is a multitude of lives, with Pietro and Bruno perhaps at the forefront or the centerpiece of the handling of this work. Because when we do meet them throughout the courses of their lives into adulthood and their various stages and their various walks of life, and when, say, certain say family significant events or family tragedies bring them together for one reason or another. We also understand that they are coming from different places, but they're also coming from the same place. And it's that type of appreciating the differences, but also understanding the bond, which makes their bond even stronger and more and incredibly heartfelt and quite profound indeed. And when they have a certain sense of togetherness and overlap in terms of trying to build something or forge something, which has a type of a plot mechanics significance around midway in the film, or when they are introducing themselves to, say, their friends and their colleagues, and how that also might affect their own outlook and a trajectory of life. And when they drift apart, also what it is they do in terms of their backgrounds and how where it is they go even when they are apart, and how their lives are developing even when they're not necessarily together, Pietro and Bruno, and yet they are still growing and developing and trying to find themselves. Sometimes it might be in places that are very remote from the geographical location that occupies most of this film, the Eight Mountains. But even with a type of geographical distance, there's always a spiritual connectedness that is at the heart, thus giving rise to, say, the significance of the title, The Eight Mountains, and the way in which there is a linkage between geography, the environment, and the significance of the poetry and beauty of nature and the land, as exemplified by the forests and the mountains on the one hand, but also how that's linked to a sense of transformation, a transcendental experience, which could also be said to be, in a humane way, a shared lived-in experience, as perhaps exemplified by the relationship between these two wonderfully realized characters, Pietro and Bruno, for the course of their very long lives and over the course of many years, with all the ups and downs and everything that is part of this, the flights of fancy and whimsy, and the undulations of luck and chance, and also just aspects of fate, and also human choice and conscious choice, and everything in between. That is the embodiment of this thing, which is the landscape of human life and human existence. So this, I think, is a very cherishable work. It's a work that has a lot of heart and a lot of lift and a lot of spirit and charm, and also an endearing sense of honesty and earnestness. I love the way it holds on characters. The camera holds on characters, and it allows characters to have a sense of dignity, even when they're by themselves and they're at their lowest ebb. They have the sense of dignity, the quiet moments before things become lost forever. But those things are remembered because we as viewers are allowed to share in those moments, thanks to the filmmakers and the trajectory of their story. And I should say that there is a wonderful sense of nature. There's a wonderful sense of perspective and the grandness of the surroundings, which also does not necessarily, say, diminish the sort of existential positionings of our two characters, but on the contrary has a sense of echoing and reinforcing uh, the the boldness of who it is these people are. So there's this wonderful balance between nature and humanity in this film, which is captured so well in the photography, but also in the music. I love the musical choices in this. It has a great uh, it has a great, almost unexpected way of really working its charm, quite magically so. And I should say too, then the performances here are truly top notch. I love there's a way in which you can feel the years uh, build. Have built over the lives of these characters as they're portrayed by the actors here, by everyone concerned, but specifically Alessandro Borghi and Luca Marinelli. Just a true tour de force, excuse me, performances from the word go. And as well, it is a sort of multi-layered performance or set of performances, because we see a number of actors portraying the characters depending on what age they are over the course of many, many years. So it's a collection of wonderful performances that are helping in all their way to round and to really develop these wonderfully realized characters. The heart and soul of this, or one of the many hearts and souls of this film that is filled with a lot of heart, filled with a lot of soul. It is this work. It's a beautiful work. Once again, I was watching this for the first time, not knowing too much about this film, not knowing too much about the filmmakers who had made this film. But upon watching this for the first time and then watching it again and again, and also sharing a little bit in the supplements, the two supplements, which we'll talk about momentarily later in this video, I really got to know more about who these filmmakers were, and the great sense that they have together. It's a fascinating approach, and just the work ethic, as well as just bringing together this. It's a brilliant, lovely, a heartfelt achievement that has this resonance that is just echoing, just so constantly. It's what an achievement this is indeed. This is the work which is called The Eight Mountains. Okay, so now let us continue on with the discussion of this Blu-ray, the JANUS Contemporaries release of The Eight Mountains. Again, this is from 2022, and we have the disc, which is in the player right now. And I'm sorry for the obscure nature of how this screen looks. I hope I apologize. I hope you can forgive me. It's really hard to make out, but it does say "Play the movie," and it does say next "Meet the filmmakers and the making of The Eight Mountains" in the trailer. So these are the supplements that are part of this JANUS Contemporaries release. I should point out that so far I would say that most of the JANUS Contemporaries releases usually have the one supplement, but here we have two, and they are each yeah, quite fairly speaking, quite robust in terms of running time and content. So I'm very impressed with this. First up, let's say it is the Meet the Filmmakers section, which is approximately 20 minutes. And this is a kind of sit-down interview with the filmmakers Felix von Groeningen and Charlotte Vandermeersch. And so, once again, please pardon me for my poor pronunciation. I hope you can forgive me. But they do speak together, sitting next to each other. And von Groeningen is talking about sort of the genesis of this work and a number of his films, and indeed how he and Charlotte Vandermeersch first met and became acquainted, and how they indeed got together both professionally and personally, because they also speak, and also Charlotte Vandermeersch speak too about how they have a family, they are together, they have their relationship, a personal relationship, as well as the professional relationship, and they also mention, in I think very honest terms, about how this film, The Eight Mountains, came out at a time when they made reference to how they were having certain issues with their personal relationship as well. So this kind of coming together and the production of this film feels, therefore, again, based on their own remarks here, like a type of family approach, or a family gathering, or indeed a family affair, in very intimate and warm terms, where you could see this the story about a bond, about a human connection, again based upon the Cognetti work. And they do speak about working with the writer and getting to know the writer on very friendly terms on the one hand, but also being enabled with the freedom of adaptation of the work on the other. So they really express their deep admiration for the writer here, as well as other members of the cast and crew, which we'll talk a little bit about in the second supplement. But here they're talking about, on the one hand, it's a bond, maybe primarily in the context of the film. It could be said to be a bond between these two children, and then they grow up over time. And so it's interesting in terms of what each of these filmmakers say in terms of their own perspective on the work, how they both have a sense of this idea of the establishment of the humane set against a backdrop or otherwise connected quite inextricably with the notion of the backdrop of nature. And it's also talking too about family and fathers, and there's a mention about how the two filmmakers each had certain issues with their own family life and their own parents, and so there might be certain echoes or certain reminiscences or similarities or feelings that they might have themselves brought to the table when they were making this film together. It's also a film, as they say, about ancestry, and also it's a lovely conversation. And I don't know, I'm not an expert when it comes to these filmmakers directly, but they do speak a little bit about their work, some of their works prior to the Eight Mountains, and then working together. And they have this very interesting dynamic. You get certain glimpses of it here, and indeed in the other supplement, where they're working on location. It's a very interesting dynamic to see them working. Maybe Vandermeersch is working with one of the actors we see a shot of, and then maybe we see Van Groeningen speaking with some of the other actors before a shot or something. It's a really interesting dynamic to see them working together this way, and the fact that they are themselves expressing it in their own terms in this interview and in these other places in the context of their own personal relationship. I find so, how should I put it? It's the fact that they're so open about it, and they're linking their work, the Eight Mountains, with something that is so personal and that touches their lives in a very intimate way, I find very brave and quite admirable indeed. So I feel so honored that they'd be willing to share this aspect of their lives, the two of them, both individually, also together. They also make mention of their family and the family that they're raising and their young child as well. So there seem to be these parallels that they are sharing with us in terms of the backdrop and production values of this film that have an undoubtedly intimate, personal, familial nature that are linked to them. But also, it is there are things that are very universal and that can be have these wonderful resonances that I think can be felt throughout the world. So it has this wonderful, intimate family portrait feel about it that is also wonderfully accessible, and the rapport and the way of addressing film and their comments and the candor. It's very inspiring and refreshing and very wonderful indeed. So this is the Meet the Filmmakers discussion with the two filmmakers, Felix van Groeningen and Charlotte Vandermeersch. It's approximately 20 minutes. And then the next is the making of Eight Mountains. This is approximately 15 minutes, and this is the second of the supplements here. It's another making of documentary. So you see some footage actually on location. You see the filmmakers working. You hear again from the filmmakers themselves. Also talking about the writer, and also what's great here too is that we also get some sit-down interview footage with some of the actors. This is Marinelli and Borghi, respectively, talking about their approaches to the characters. There's some details about the production and casting that actually came up in the other supplement that also echoed a little bit in this supplement too, which is really fascinating. The cast is one of the key elements that makes this film shine. And so to hear their approach and to hear the actors' sort of philosophy and their characters and how it merges into the overall tapestry of the film, utterly sublime indeed. So this is the Making of the Eight Mountains documentary, approximately 15 minutes. And then we have the trailer, and it's a trailer that has a lot of laudatory quotes from reviews and the like. I think that's one of those. It's a very nicely prepared trailer. And then also part of the menu here is the option of setting up the subtitles here from the menu directly, or of course you can always use the appropriate button on the remote control of your machine, should you choose to do so. And then last but not least, I should point out that this is a JANUS Contemporaries, which, as we've seen so far, has the insert which has on the one side, on this sort of double-folded piece of paper, some pictures from the film, and on the other side we have an essay. This is another wonderful essay by Michael Joshua Rowan, which is called The Eight Mountains, A Place in the World. Again, I've learned so much from watching this film for the first time, and from the supplements, and also from the essay. So I encourage you to watch the film first, and then after you watch the film, you can read this lovely, lovely essay, which is included, A Place in the World. And indeed, that I think this idea of the world and existence and peace and tranquility, but also sort of the hardships of quote unquote life and reality. It's all here and then some. So I found this to be so uplifting and poignant and sad, and I felt the passage of time and years, lives lived, beautiful lives lived, ups and downs, moments of quiet dignity and power of the bond between and among human beings. What a beautiful achievement this is indeed. This is the work which is the Eight Mountains. All right, my dear friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great, great movies, including The Eight Mountains, including other films in the JANUS Contemporaries lineup, the Criterion Channel, the Criterion Collection, and beyond. So until the next video, my dear, dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.